Are you ready to get casual? Grab your favorite adult beverage or combustible plant and join us for our roundtable TTRPG discussion. Oh yeah, it's time for Casual Friday. And now, here are your hosts.
What's up, everybody? Shout out to Jim, who's not feeling well today. The crazies have taken over. I'm in charge now. This is my ship. I'm Ryan Doyle. Beside me, the man, the myth, the legend, Brad Wolf. What's up, man? How you feeling?
Doing good. It's crazy. We go from you not being here last week to you being in charge this week. It's like we have no method to our madness.
Oh, it's bananas. I took a week off to plan my mutiny, and so far so good. And we are talking about the future of TTRPGs, D&D, Tater Pigs, all of the above, D&D, and beyond. That's something, right? Is that something? They should use that. Man, so breaking news, breaking records. Neon Odyssey, everybody's second favorite, third favorite actual play series. That's not true. That's a lot of people's first favorite, as demonstrated by the monster. What is it? 16 million? Yeah, just over the line for $16 million for their 5e Vaporwave Cowboy Bebop Space Odyssey goodness. A lot of content coming out from these folks on this one. I'm going to play this for a little bit because if you haven't seen this dope anime music video featuring space whales, among other things, you should check this out. This made the rounds on my Tuesday night group texts. And I was like, what is that? Did I miss? Like, is there a Cowboy Bebop movie coming out? What is this? This looks pretty dope.
Yeah, apparently when you make a shit ton of money on your previous Kickstarter, you can spend that money on your next Kickstarter to make it even cooler and make it break the record that you broke with your last Kickstarter. These guys did the Crooked Moon Kickstarter and set the record for 5th edition related Kickstarters at like 14 something million with their Crooked Moon, and now they've broken that record with this one, their Space Odyssey. What's this one called again?
Neon Odyssey.
Neon Odyssey, yeah. And to note, this also breaks the previous record for just any RPG, which was set by Cosmere. So they beat Brandon Sanderson at his own game. And Brandon Sanderson's a Kickstarter master, having kickstarted both novels and role-playing game books. So this is impressive all the way around.
It's huge. They're bringing out 52 subclasses. They've reskinned every 5e class, including Artificer. We were trying to get under the hood a little bit. It looks like the Machinist is probably an Artificer Space Age reskin. Space Combat System. Everybody was real excited to get their hands on official version of that, and famously that fell through. So they saw a gap in the market. 42 species, 250 monsters, upgradable vehicles, racing rules, bounty hunter ranking systems, in case you did not think they were paying homage to Cowboy Bebop. A lot of meat on this bone and a point of view. There's definitely, like, in the art, in the copy, there's a fun, futuristic, like, yeah, sure, it's gritty, but it's also day glow. We're using all the colors in the box to make this one happen. You like grimdark? Cool. This ain't it.
Yeah, this is my kind of sci-fi. Like, I mean, I played Warhammer 40K when it first, like, pretty much as soon as it came out in the 80s, the original Rogue Trader version. So I was a metalhead, and grimdark was cool as fuck back in the 80s. But, like, over the years, my sci-fi tastes have transitioned to stuff that's more exciting, more fun, more energetic. I'm a big fan of Cowboy Bebop, have been, as long as I can remember. And I mean, this looks cool. I mean, honestly, the only reason I haven't backed it yet is because it's based on 5th edition. Um, and I'm not that 5th edition is a bad game. I say this like almost every podcast. Not that 5th edition is a bad game, but I've played it for over 14 years now, and I'm kind of over it. But no, this looks super cool.
There is maybe 2 lessons to be drawn here. One, if you're part of our audience who's into the design space and considering making a product and trying to kickstart it, 5e is still where the people are at. And if that does not include you, and you are among the majority of our audience who are just running games and maybe trying to get your players to play a different game, a reskin of 5e might be an easier lift. People are invested in having learned so much, even though a lot of our players maybe didn't learn it as well as they should have. But getting them to, hey, no, it's 5e, it's the same thing, but here is a Technicolor galaxy that, yeah, you can get a spaceship and get cool guns for it. And you know what? Now it's a whole universe, not some faux medieval continent where no one's moving faster than a horse. And it's a lot easier to explain your crazy character concept. Like you're from another planet, not, 30 miles from here. A lot of cool opportunities on something like this. Hey, everybody, what's up, chat? Let's turn this on. Nachos here. You are not late. We are right on time, which for us is early. And yeah, if you're out there holding on to your Spelljammer books, wishing there was more in it, this might be a good place to go. Yeah,
I mean, I think you could if you really wanted to run Spelljammer, but you wanted spaceship rules and vehicle rules, I feel like you can mix and match your Spelljammer and your Space Odyssey and kind of come up with your own version of Spelljammer, borrowing heavily from these rules. That's what it seems to look like, because this is designed for 5th edition, right? So the other thing I found interesting about this is this could be a direct competitor to Starfinder, right? We have, which I haven't heard a lot about since its release. A few years back, they did, Pathfinder 2. What do they call it? Like they did a refresh of Pathfinder 2.
It's like 2E revised. Yeah, they took out all the OGL nonsense when that went down.
Yeah, they scrubbed it of all the OGL stuff and really got rid of any connection they had to D&D 3.5 or 5th edition. And then shortly after that, they announced that they were doing a 2nd edition of Starfinder that was going to be completely compatible with Pathfinder. So you can run a Pathfinder character and a Starfinder character side by side in the same adventure, which was a big selling point, and a lot of people seemed excited about. I don't even remember talking about that in one of my videos back then. But as near as I can tell, I don't see a lot of buzz about Starfinder, since then. So I don't know if there's a lot of people that are out there playing Starfinder, and maybe that's because we don't follow Pathfinder stuff that closely. But this seems to be like an alternative to Starfinder. Starfinder has a little harder sci-fi flavor to it, even though there's goblins in it. But this seems like an alternative to Starfinder that clearly a lot of people are interested in.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see it percolate out into the world as this Kickstarter is delivered. Another Kickstarter not making as big of waves, but personally I am maybe more excited about. because I'm a huge fan of Kevin Crawford, who's coming in strong, being like, "Look, folks, we're not using AI. Look at this. Look at this drawing I made." Respect. If you have ever messed around with world building, you have probably come upon Worlds Without Numbers. The one time I was really dabbling with a sci fantasy inspired campaign, I had Stars Without Numbers ready to go because you hand your players a spaceship and they can just jet off at light speed to another planet. You got to be ready to generate random content. Cities Without Numbers, I'm just a huge fan of the scene nomine work. You can get a lot of each of those books for free. There are free editions on Drive-Thru RPG of Worlds Without Numbers is probably the starting point for a lot of us D&D players out there. But this is a new character world building creation product coming out. I backs this sight unseen. We won't, no one's gonna see this for another year or so, but I believe in this guy and this product and this company. So yeah, I joined in and I backed it early.
So Book of Unnumbered Worlds. So he's got Stars Without Number, which is sci-fi, Worlds Without Number, which is like high fantasy, and then what was the one where you basically play like demigods? That's like that's like super high fantasy. That was
there's a lot. There's a lot. I missed a couple because this is his 14th or 15th. This almost feels like an omnibus looking under the hood a little bit, because you have cosmology and geography and like what's the deal with this village. So it seems like it's covering all the levels of Zoom, and it's just that. I really like Worlds Without Numbers. I have never even put in the effort to convince people to play the game system. The first half of that book is a pretty elegantly designed rule set, which I skip over to get to the rest of the book, which is just content generation tables, which, you've been hanging out with me for a while, is my bread and butter. So it's good. I'm excited for this one. Just another one to check out. If Dayglow sci-fi isn't the deal for you, maybe that one is. Or hey, maybe you're doing pretty well over there. Maybe get both.
Yeah, the cool thing about his books is that the bulk of the book is usually free to download a PDF. So if you actually want the game system and like the faction rules for the setting that comes in that book, that's free. The flavor text and like the lore of the setting and all that sort of stuff, is extra. You have to buy the actual hardback book for it. But most of his books, you get the actual core rules for free, which is a really cool thing that he does.
And also, a huge reason I backed this is almost like back taxes. Like I felt a debt for having used the PDFs, the free versions of the PDFs, so often for so long without buying a physical copy. I bought the Worlds Without Numbers PDF to like get the fullness of it, but like I've dabbled with so many of them on the free versions. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, we're going all out. I'm buying a physical copy of this one. I owe you. You have a point. You have a place of pride on my shelf.
Yeah, and in most of his setting books, he also has like a faction system. It's like a mini game you can play as the dungeon master between sessions to see how the factions are vying against each other, and then that informs your decisions at the table. You're like, so when the players interact with a particular faction, what that faction is up to based on your faction mini game that you've been playing between sessions. It's a pretty cool concept. It's really neat stuff that he designs. I want to say most of his, or like all of his games, are based on the original OGL. So they're designed on 3.5. But one of the unique things he does is instead of rolling D20 for, like, you still roll D20 for combat, but you roll 2D6, if I remember right, for skills. which creates a tighter math curve when you're using skills. So therefore, the skill points that you have are more important, right? Because you're rolling a number between 2 and 12 with 2d6. So in order to hit a higher target number, uh, you challenge rating, whatever phrase you want to use for that, you have to really be well well skilled in that skill, right? You have to have like a so if you have a 19 and you're rolling 2d12, like 19 challenge rating, and you're trying to roll 2d12 to hit that, obviously you're going to have to roll really high and have a pretty high rank in that skill for it to actually pay off. So, just from a design perspective, I find that interesting that like mathematically, the skills in his games, have more weight to them. So if you have expertise in a skill, you can do a lot more than someone who just has that skill or has a high, intelligence for their, investigation, right? The ranks in your skills actually make a bigger difference. I just thought that was an interesting design concept that he worked into, and I think it's largely a part of most of his games.
Yeah, I love a good bell curve. D20 is near and dear to our hearts because of branding, but the distribution forming a nice curve and not just a flat, very swingy line creates more interest and realism in a lot of situations, and allows both the game designer and the dungeon master a little more control and influence. And honestly, sometimes when you're looking at, as a DM, someone calls for, they're trying to do something crazy, you're making up a DC on the fly, and they roll something like middling, and you're like, all right, I guess you kind of, I don't know, like 13, like couldn't have you like, I wanted you to roll a 6 or a 22. Like there's maybe this is too broad here. So yeah, a 2d6, like a Powered by the Apocalypse. Bunch of other games use it. It's nice. You have degrees of success and failure kind of built in because it's a tighter range. I dig it. So again, go check out pretty much everything Kevin Crawford has offered up for free on Drive-Thru RPG and elsewhere. Maybe that's going to help you design your future world or your current world. But let's get into D&D. Let's get into the 10,000 pound gorilla in the room. It's definitely more than 5,000. We're at King Kong levels here. There's some new stuff. So let's talk about the good, and then we'll talk about like potentially the really good, and then we'll talk about the ugly, as we do here on Casual Friday. I like the fact that we're getting a refresh on the Taroka deck, which we could have assumed maybe in this horror, the season of spooky. I forget what it's called. I don't have the roadmap up in front of us, but the return to Ravenloft. It looks like we're getting a generation for encounters, among other things, out of the Taroka deck, which is cool. You ever run any Strahd or use cards to randomize?
I have never actually run Ravenloft or Curse of Strahd. I've never actually played it either. It's one of those things I've always like kind of saved it as if it's like some sort of holy grail that I'm not allowed to touch until I'm really ready. It's funny, like that's just the psychology of this. Is like this is like the sacred D&D text, and I am not worthy of it yet. I don't know.
Oh man, see, it's fun. I did the same thing for different reasons. Like I went, I don't know, 10 years, like not cracking the spine, like not even having the book in my possession because I wanted to experience it pure and right. I wanted to come up through it and then maybe run it one day. And like so many other things in this hobby, if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. So I prepped and read Curse of Strahd, and it's good. It is really good. I think a lot of what's great about Curse of Strahd is it knows what it is. It's focused in on a genre. It's not a kitchen sink. It you know what movie you're in. The players know what characters to play for the most part. And yeah, it's good. I will say, I'm working out of the revamped. I forget which one's the fan creation and which one is like the redone one within 5e, but I'm working out of like the newer and improved Curse of Strahd, and it still leaves a lot to be desired organizationally. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I think that's it for me. Like, it was a matter of I wanted to be a player in it first before I cracked it open and ran it. So I have not done what you just did. I haven't decided to run it because I still want to be a player in it first, which is crazy because like I'm almost never, I'm almost never the player, right? But to your question about the Taroka deck, I have used the Taroka deck before for different things. The thing I used it most for was actually before I came up to my new initiative system that I talked about a couple of episodes ago. I used the Taroka deck for my initiative. So I had each player picked a card that represented their character, and then I picked out a card that represented the boss monster and a card that represented minions. And I would shuffle them all together, and we would draw the card to see whose turn it was in combat, which is actually a pretty cool way to do initiative. It doesn't necessarily. I think it is faster than the like let's everybody roll and let's write it all down. But yeah, it was that was the way I used the Taroka deck the most.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know, but yeah, some of my players are going to be watching this on the replay. But I fixed the reading. I think that's the best thing to do. There's a famous moment fairly early on in the Curse of Strahd where you're determining where the MacGuffins are. Let's put it that way, where plot specific elements are, and there are 5 of them, and some of the results are much more narratively satisfying, let's put it that way, than other potential options. And I used it to make sure that like we were going places I wanted to see, and there's definitely potential to skip a good chunk of content if you want to run through Barovia really quickly. So I recommend fixing the deck. All of you out there who have just decided, yes, you know what, I'm gonna run Curse of Strahd. Fix the deck. If you, like me, were messing around with magic tricks in elementary school, if your sleight of hand modifier is pretty good, like if you can convince the players at the table that you have not fixed the deck by shuffling and then putting the cards on top, which would be behind the Dungeon Master Scream, or wherever your capabilities lie, it's a real cool experience. I wouldn't tell the players, maybe whatever. We're a year into the campaign now. Yes, I sent you to the Amber Temple. Sorry, not sorry, but it's good, and I'm looking forward to them doing more with it, especially as someone who's cooking up a tarot project myself. I may go back to the Taroka deck and see how much crossover I want to use. Maybe probably 0, honestly, because they're hard to trust D&D these days. If you were listening to us 2 weeks ago, I wasn't here last week, but 2 weeks ago, I was pretty down at the mouth on the future of Dungeons and Dragons. I was thinking that, all right, I've been hurt before. WotC is up to their same old tricks. There's a whole new group of people, but they seem to be doing the same stuff they were always doing, targeting this like subscription model, franchise, all these buzzwords, and making this walled garden where everything's on D&D Beyond and as monetized as possible. And hey, good news, they heard me and many of us. I was not alone in our griping and complaints, and they are listening. So at least on this subscription style, these drops that are they're doing weekly little adventures, they're doing monthly. We'll go into what the June drop is. This is like the first big one. They're releasing stuff exclusively on D&D Beyond, which is fine, which is okay, but they made it so that it was not shareable content. And that stuck in a lot of people's cross because there's a lot of folks out there who are, dungeon masters who are sharing this content with their players. There are some tables out there, I am sure, who are sharing the cost of an account across the table to pay for this, just like your family's Netflix account, baby. So I am less invested in these drops, honestly, than the fact that we are looking at a company that is responsive and whatever, 10 days maybe after doing what they set out to do, they come back and like, look, we heard you, our bad. Here was our reasoning. We were a little bit rushed. We're gonna, if you do want these drops, you can get them in like a yearly anthology. You don't have to be a subscriber to get these things. We're looking at how to make it shareable, which is a little weaselly. I'm always in the position of like, I don't know if I want to give you the benefit of the doubt anymore, but I will for a while. Fool me 8 times, shame on me. But yeah, well, I think this is a little tally mark in the column of hey, at least some subsection of WotC are pretty good, not evil.
Yeah, and I think this is, the after effect of the OGL, right? Like, it's very clear, I'm sure, to a lot of people who work at WotC, largely because WotC has hired folks, who have been part of the community before, right? Like Sean Merwin is now, working for WotC, and he used to be, long ago, he used to be like us, right? I mean, he's had tremendous success as an independent creator on, DM's Guild and for what's the Adventurers League, right? And with that success, he's now hired by WotC and works for WotC. So I think, after the OGL, it seems like WotC is trying to do a better job of connecting with the community and listening to the community, and that's, I think, is a big improvement. I don't think we're ever going to see them stop saying things about profits and talking about AI and all of those things, because they are a publicly traded company and that's what shareholders want to hear about, right? So I think one thing that I realized after, I think, the last big announcement about AI is that there's like, I mean, we've known for a long time that there's kind of 2 branches here. There's like the corporate side and there's the design side. And for a long time, it looked like the corporate side was always winning. However, I think there's just a reality that we've got to let the corporate side say corporate things, right? So there's always going to be reports that the corporate side says a bunch of BS that we don't like, but realize that their target audience is shareholders. They're just trying to tell the shareholders what they want to hear to keep shareholders as shareholders, right? Don't sell your stocks because we're getting better, and here's how we're getting better. And they're just saying all the buzzwords that shareholders want to hear, and AI is one of those buzzwords, right? So I've started to take less and less stock in the things that are said by the corporate side when they're talking to their shareholders, right? And I'm more paying attention to what they're actually doing with D&D Beyond, how they're improving maps, how they're improving the interface, which is I still not a fan of, but it has gotten better. but I feel like from the design side, they are trying. And maybe that introduces our next topic, um, but I do feel like, there's at least part of WotC who's trying to listen to the community.
Yeah, Brad's watching me in the background change the agenda here. I went back and forth on how to shape the narrative of today's episode because there are two forces at play. And I don't know, anyone who's worked at a company knows the person at the top of the pyramid is influential, very much so, but doesn't necessarily have total control or all that much insight on the day-to-day of what's going on. But WotC is part of Hasbro, and I've been saying, I was ringing this bell during the OGL nonsense. It's important to separate the two as much as you can because Hasbro is out here. I don't know. I mean, if you're deep into the AI world, I know it's like demonized by a lot of our community. I know also a lot of our community is using it day to day in their like job. I'm kind of ambivalent / just like cynical and defeated. I don't think me putting my finger in the dam is going to do much to stop our robot overlords from taking over the world. I'm going to just do my thing and do it hard and preserve the parts of my brain that are creative by not, ceding that territory. But WotC's out here creating this. I didn't go too deep of a dive because I'm never going to use this thing, but they're licensing their IP to whoever wants to use it in this AI playground. If you want the Monopoly man to, I don't know, sell your peanuts and have a baby with Mr. Peanut, if you can do that now, you can get Cobra Commander's voice actor to say whatever you want. Here's this huge AI playground of all these Hasbro properties, Mr. Potato Head, Transformers, which I don't know. I get Starscream to do some cool stuff for me in my D&D campaign if I had the budget, I guess. But what's not here is WotC IP because somebody over there is pushing back and letting whoever is doing this know that we would revolt. And they can't come out and say like, hey, we're on your side, but actions speak louder than words. So as much as Chris Cox or whoever comes next is going to show up and say, yeah, we're going to maximize profitability by, I don't know, putting Professor Plum in an AI playground garden to sell your product if you pay us enough money. There's still other people who are like, nah, we're going to let humans be responsible for our creative acts because that's what we want and that's what our fan base wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they have made attempts to listen to the fan base, and there's have to be careful because I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about it. There is there's a network of people in the community who answer surveys regularly from WotC. So it was I don't know how I ended up on a list, but I ended up on a list and had to say I wouldn't give details about it. But there are ways that WotC is soliciting feedback from our community, and it's interesting that when the surveys come out, it's a lot about Magic the Gathering and D&D, but there's also surveys about other Hasbro products where they're trying to figure out, how much the D&D and Magic the Gathering community are engaging with their other Hasbro products. That's one of the things that comes up. But yeah, so they are trying to get feedback from the community.
And when you like zoom out, that's baked into the DNA of 5th edition before it was even 5th edition, right? Like this was the most play tested version. They made 4E because they thought everybody wanted WoW, but on a tabletop didn't really work out. And they said, hey, maybe we should listen to the people who are playing this game. This is a pretty unique hobby in that, you know, the Star Wars fans are doing cool stuff and dressing up in costumes at con. I don't know how much influence they have over what the next series is going to be, you know? Star Wars fans come at me. I don't, maybe you do, but like there's not a lot of games, stories, IPs, however you want to frame this, where the line between audience and storyteller is so blurry. We are more influential than most other customer bases by the nature of what we do and how we do it, and the fact that we got organized and loud when we had to shows that we have the capabilities. So if you, like me, sometimes get exhausted and are like, these jerks, I'm not touching this stuff anymore. Just know that you can influence this stuff. See, yeah, here we go. Star Wars fans. Rise of Skywalker is a fan reaction to The Last Jedi.
Yeah, and that does raise the question, though: was Rise of Skywalker worth it? Like, it's like the last trilogy of Star Wars movies, like changed with each movie, right? Like the tone, the director, things changed with each movie, and it was largely because they were trying to listen to the fans. But I think that's a cautionary tale, and be careful what you wish for, because the last trilogy was kind of a mess. So, but I think overall, like, our community is pretty good about knowing what we want, and I think I think we've had some good influence on WotC. So, I think it's been good overall. And like you said, because 5th edition was built on the D&D Next playtest, like 5th edition was founded on the community feedback, and really, going all the way back to 3.5, the OGL was designed so that the community could influence the game, right? That was definitely the intention. What's his name? Ryan Dancy? Is that his name?
Stacy?
Dancy? I think, yeah. He I mean, he literally talks about that was the purpose. When they created the OGL, he was coming from a software background where open game license was really informing the creation of software by crowdsourcing ideas, right? And so the OGL was very much intended to get crowd feedback, and have third-party creators fill in the gaps that WotC wasn't able to do, right? Those niche genres, those extra books, those extra ideas, all of that was intended to be a way for the community to interact with the game and for the community to design their own content, right? So I know a lot of Magic the Gathering players who wish their community got listened to by WotC as much as the D&D community gets listened to by WotC.
Yeah, no comment on Magic. But yeah, I mean, it's true, and a place, a community, a market where Legends of Avantris can come out with a $16 million Kickstarter is a really special place to be.
Yeah.
And one thing, like, I don't know, the reason I am optimistic about the future this episode. Let's see what happens next week. The cornerstone of all of that, and what I was gonna, I don't know, make the thumbnail and title, but I couldn't figure out an interesting way to do it. So, Taroka cards, the D&D Community Advisory Group, a rotating cast of characters who are, as Brad said, influencing and speaking to the not quite the muckety mucks, but the one rung under the muckety mucks at WotC. And there's a lot of friendly faces and familiar names on this list, and other folks, worth checking out. But this is a who's who. This is a rogues gallery of influential people in the D&D space. You got the Dungeon Dudes, you got Teos Abadia.
Did we freeze up?
No, I'm good. Ted, I thought, it's funny, I was about to say a name that I don't see. Oh no, here we go. Mike Shea.
Mike Shea. Yeah, Mike Shea's on
That's
there.
fun. I was looking for Sly Hirsch. I was like S. Oh no, Mike Shea's not here. Wait a minute. I'm wrong. Sorry. The technology didn't freeze up. That was just my brain, folks.
That was an organic freeze. Yeah, I mean, Mike Shea's been a very outspoken member of our community. Obviously, he has a very successful podcast, Sly Flourish, and yeah, he's had a lot of feedback over the years. But yeah, so him and the Dungeon Dudes and Ted and Teos Abadia, who, if you're not familiar with, he's not as popular as those other guys I just mentioned. But Teos is a very knowledgeable game designer. Has done and he does the Mastering Dungeons podcast with Sean Merwin. So the two of them have been very vocal parts of our community for a long time. Teos has done a lot of design work, independent design work. He's designed for WotC content, also independent content as well. So I'm excited to know that all these folks have some real influence, hopefully, over the direction of the game. And apparently from this article, it's going to be an annual rotation. So these folks will basically serve for a year, and then some, if not all of them, will be replaced the following year. So it'll be a rotation of community members being able to, give feedback. And apparently, I watched Ted's video about this, and from what Ted was saying, it seemed to him like it was this group and their feedback that encouraged the recent roadmap that we have. That from what it seemed like to him, WotC was not going to have a roadmap of future products until this group said that they needed one.
Wow, which is wild to me. Like, you told me that, and I was just like, how could that possibly be true? Like, the roadmap, I don't know. It's not like a fan-based idea. They've been doing it for years now. And I remember talking early this year, being like, did I miss something? Does anybody know like what's coming next? Like, and they're so, I don't know. It seemed like they were leaning into it so much with this, like, the seasonality of it. And we're just, again, this is the new era of 5.5 hasn't really even started yet. Like, I feel like we're on the cusp of actually experiencing what 5.5 is, even though we're 18 months into it, which I'm not making excuses, but I'm just saying that they didn't, I don't know. We haven't had our first big adventure book until the Red Wizards of Thay book comes out in September still. But yeah, thank you, wise council of elders. Thank you, the D&D Senate. Let me know. We're gonna have a D&D K Street now. We're gonna start lobbying these folks to get what we want. But yeah, roadmap, big win.
Yeah, so this is a handful of select folks that are actually giving unsolicited feedback. Like, they're actually, I mean, obviously they're going to have feedback solicited from them, right? But this appears to be a group that can actually just speak up and say, hey, what about this? What are you guys thinking on this? And that's really great. That's really different and better than the level of feedback that I was talking about, where like there is a group of folks in the community who are answering surveys. But like when I get one of those surveys, all I'm doing is answering the specific questions they're asking. Like there's no place for me to be like, hey, what about this and what about that? Right. So this is a new and extra level from WotC.
Yeah, I've always been curious how much that field in the UA feedback of like, what else do you think actually gets parsed and processed? I'm sure a lot of people have been screaming into the void in there. But again, we have a responsive company here. We forget that at our peril, and we can use that to our advantage. And yeah, the fact that they're bringing in these folks, there's not a person on that list that I don't like. it's pretty great. If they're running for re-election, I'm probably going to vote for them.
Yeah, and Nacho says that he's a fan of the D&D Beyond changes so far.
Yeah, international shipping is I don't know. They could do a better job as a huge megalithic company, but there are international forces at play. Not getting too political. Everyone knows where we stand. But yeah, you can. I throw a lot of dispersions WotC's way. Shipping, I'm gonna give them a little bit of a pass. But they do seem to like. It's like everything else. They expand into things and then give up again and again and again. I know I get a lot of Brazilians. Shout out, my Portuguese is awful. I'm not even attempting anything, but like there's a lot of regions where WotC has a big fan base that feel a little left out, and that's a shame. In this digital era, you can do a lot online, but yeah, I don't know. Nacho's out there. Nacho has gotten a book early, I know, by the vagaries of international shipping, but there is, yeah, something about not supporting your customer base everywhere if you can. They should do that. And they're really leaning into the digital side of things. The good of that is the day they release it, you have it, regardless of where you are, as long as you have an internet connection. But I don't know, man. As you can see behind me, I like a book. I like a physical dead tree with ink on it. Give me words. Give me something I can hold in my hands, and I can go inside and read without the glare of a screen preventing me from reading it in the sunshine. That is my jam.
So, but yeah, overall, it'll be interesting to see. You know, we give WotC a lot of shit on this show for stepping on rakes, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see over the next year and a half, like when 5.5 reaches the 3-year mark. Will 5.5 be more popular than 5e? We know from Bob Worldbuilder's survey that according to his survey, we talked about that a few shows back, and his final results came out last week. That 5th edition is still more popular than 5.5 at this point, according to Bob's survey. So it'll be interesting to see how 5.5 continues to perform, especially in the wake of so much competition with Drawsteel and Daggerheart and Nimble and Shadow Dark, right? All 4 of those performed pretty strongly in Bob's survey of favorite TTRPGs, right? There was 5th edition, 5.5, and Pathfinder were like the top 3. No surprise there. A little bit of a surprise that 5.5 is still less popular than 5th edition, according to the survey. But then right under that were those 4 games I mentioned. I don't remember what order they were in, but it was Draw Steel, Daggerheart, Shadow Dark, and Nimble were right there in the next category of games. There was like a top 3 and then a following 4.
Yeah, if you haven't checked that out, do so. I was going to put it on the agenda, but we talked about it a couple of weeks ago with his first release of data to cut off some criticism immediately. There's selection bias, right? Like I've seen a lot of people being like, "Oh, the D&D YouTuber guy had a poll in D&D one." He put in a ton of effort to get that survey spread far and wide. As much as it is like a Bob World Builder project, and he is doing all of the work, crunching these numbers and herding these cats and running this data. He got that out into a lot of OSR and indie game communities. Just the sheer number of games on that survey shows you his dedication to being as broad and thorough as possible. So it is good data that we really don't often get access to. A lot of people will look at like sales data, which is good, but can be cooked, and you don't necessarily gain as much insight into everything at once, looking at one company at a time. So yeah, very, very interesting to me. I'm going to kick off the catch up with a story that pertains to that, because we were sitting around the table and I'm running the starter set, right? I am running the most D&D 2024 thing, in part to be able to talk about it on the internet. But we're deep in it. We're months into this mini campaign, and we're talking about the differences between 5e and 5.5 2024, and a player at the table who is good, who is versed, who ran the last campaign, right? Who is a dungeon master, not just like someone who's, there's another person at the table who hasn't played D&D for 20 years. There's a person at the table who never played D&D until 3 weeks ago. This guy's been playing D&D for a while, and he goes, I don't even what is 2024? Like, I don't even know, what is that about? It's like, you've been playing it for months. He's like, oh, have I? And I don't know if that was WotC's goal or not. It seems to be that they didn't want to rock the boat and change anything, but at the same time, I don't know if the fact that you're unaware that there's a difference between 5e and 5.5 is good. Maybe maybe from a business standpoint. But it was just funny to me, so weird to me.
So he didn't realize that you had switched to 5.5, and he was just...
Yeah, and I think maybe part of it is because they didn't come out and say it. It was one D&D, and then it was 5e 2024, and now it's 5.5. So I don't know if he was like, I don't know what 5.5 means. I'm still trying to catch up on 2024 or whatever. We didn't dive deep into it, but it was just like, you're sitting on it, you're playing it. You've been playing it for a while. You're in it. So yeah, it's just, I wonder how many people are actually playing some Frankenstein's monster, especially all the people who are running exclusively on D&D Beyond. How many people are keeping a clean line between what is 5th edition and what is 5.5? I really think you can lump in a lot of those numbers in those top 2 positions, because I think there's a lot of bleed by design, question mark. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. But yeah, the idea that 5, I think more people are playing 5.5 and don't know it, but that's just intuition. That's not data.
Yeah, that's probably true. And and the one thing that I always contend with, no matter what edition you're playing of D&D, is that whatever you are playing at your D&D table is unique from what I'm playing at my D&D table, right? Because you, as a dungeon master, or if you're a player, your dungeon master is home brewing something. They've cooked up something. They're tweaking their monsters. They're implementing their own initiative system. they're doing something different. They're borrowing from Draw Steel, or they're stealing ideas from Daggerheart, or they're lifting ideas from a non-WotC adventure. They're watching YouTube content and getting ideas from their favorite YouTube creator. Your version of D&D is probably at least somewhat, if not significantly, different than the version of D&D that I run at my table. And that's the cool part about the game. That's a feature, not a bug, right? That's the great thing about D&D, is what you're experiencing at your table is unique to you and your friends, and that's the awesome part of this hobby, right? So there's not that big of a difference between 5th edition and 5.5. So, whatever your DM is running is probably a mashup of the two, right? Because there are actually like some homebrew stuff that folks have been doing in 5th edition for a while that actually became full-fledged rules in 5.5, right?
Truth.
Like increasing the amount of healing for healing spells, the drinking a potion as a bonus action, right? Those are all things that we saw that were homebrewed rules that are now full-fledged rules in 5.5. So you were getting a dose of 5.5 before you even got to 5.5, if you're there yet. So, and I think, like I said, I think that's the wonderful part about the game and the wonderful part about the hobby. So there's a good question in the chat, Ryan.
What's up?
What release of upcoming 5.5 release are you most excited for? Do you have anything that's on the roadmap or that has been talked about in D&D Beyond that you actually want to get to add to your game?
I mean, TBD if it gets added to my game, but the upcoming release that I am the most excited about is that September Red Wizards of Thay. I forget the official title, but like the Seasons of Arcana is what's coming up after Seasons of Dread. I also skipped the Van Richten release. If I were just starting a Curse of Strahd campaign instead of just wrapping up a Curse of Strahd campaign, perhaps I would have gone that direction. I have subjected my table to enough terror and dread and horror and death, and had to check in. Like I came hard at those guys. So I think we're all ready to move on to a different thing when this closes out, not necessarily just move over to another domain of dread. So yes, the Season of Dread didn't get me super excited, perhaps because it's hot out, man. The Season of Dread should have been October, but is that just me, guys? I think we screwed up the scheduling there. But I'm excited for the first adventure that we're seeing in the 5.5 era, the first big campaign book. It only costs $30, so I'm prepared to get half of a book. I'm prepared to be dissatisfied with what I get, but that's the one I have the most innate interest in going forward.
For me, actually, I'm most interested in the short little adventures that are coming out on D&D Beyond, the like module style adventures. That's what appeals to me the most. Like the one we talked about, I think last episode or episode before, that was written by Sean Merwin. I'm most excited for those little adventures because if you follow my channel or you've heard me talk on the show, you know that that's how I build my campaigns. I build a sandbox out of multiple small adventures. That's why I love the campaign anthologies like Tales from the Yawning Portal. And what was the newest? I was actually trying to find it here as you were talking, Ryan. The newest anthology that came out for 5th edition right before 5.5. There was Keys of the Golden Vault, and there was another one.
Infinite Staircase.
Infinite Staircase. Yeah, so not the sandbox I'm running now, but the sandbox I ran prior to that had the Peril at Pinebrook first level adventure, and the one about the stars from it was like there were like gnome astronomers from the last anthology, the Infinite Staircase anthology. So I like dragging and dropping multiple smaller adventures into my sandbox as opposed to running the big campaign books. So that's what I'm most excited about, is seeing them come out with more of those small adventures, especially anyone done by Sean, because I like his stuff.
Yeah. So to answer Phil, there are kind of stuff scheduled. The Arcana, there's a player book and a DM adventure book in September. I think they come out. I don't know if they come out in tandem or like 2 weeks apart. But that's as far as we know right now. I anticipate Gen Con having some announcements, if not another year out of roadmap. But we'll see. Nacho's mentioned Dragon Delves also fits that anthology. No reskins off the top of my head. Yeah, a lot of those anthologies like Infinite Staircase and Tales from the Yawning Portal, which is a personal favorite of mine. A lot of that content, if not all of that content, was old stuff redone, which, surprise, surprise, is some people's favorites. But the Dragon Delves was super cool because it was so stylistically different between adventures. So, like, guarantee one of them you will not like, probably, because it's a big sampler pack, right? Not everyone likes the sour or the IPA or the whatever chocolate chip. But a book like that is more likely to be of use to me too at my table. Most of the ways I run things, and I think we're getting away from, maybe I'm just getting away from super long campaigns. Again, I'm coming down to the end of this Curse of Strahd thing. It's like, I don't know if I want the next thing to take close to 2 years. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe it's more satisfying to have it close up. Like the one-page one-shot club taught me that so much. Just like, there's something great about beginning, middle, and end in the same night, and you're just like, oh, ready for the next thing.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed our one-page one-shot club adventures. The one-shots have been fantastic, and I actually really liked the Daggerheart one we did it was 4 episodes long.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at a 3-act structure, usually your second act is 2 parts, right? So the idea of like a 4-session story arc where you've got first act, the first half of a second act, the second half of a second act, and then your third act, right? Which I don't know why we call it a 3-act structure when there's really 4 parts to it. But I just think that works. I've liked running shorter campaigns. I used to run big, like levels 1 through 12, which is what I would target for like a year. And I had success doing that because I've got a good group of players. And I have a dedicated space, which really helps. But I've been targeting nowadays more like 6 months. Like, instead of going levels 1 through 12, or like levels 1 through 8, and trying to wrap it up in 6 months. And I find that to be more successful. And so I'm on my second one of those, and I'm excited to see how this campaign wraps up. We've been playing. We started in, when did we start? April. We started in April, so that would put us finishing like September timeframe, maybe. So I'm looking forward to that. So Nacho mentions that he's running Mythic Odyssey of Theros for his next campaign. He's running that as the setting. I'm curious what adventures you're going to put in there.
One day I'll run my like big Greco-Roman, Homeric. Yeah, his current one is on its 3rd year. I feel like if you're going Greek, you got to go long. Phil says he's doing a 1 through 20.
15 months.
11 to 15 months in. That's actually pretty good, like moving through the levels.
Yeah.
Depending on where. Oh, now 11. Okay, so they're at level 11 after 15 months. Yeah, I think we do a disservice by pretending there's 20 levels to this game. I really think we made a mistake somewhere along the way. Like, yeah, sure, it's there, but every internet conversation I see about like capstone abilities and 17-3 builds, and it's just like, okay,
Yeah,
cool. You're the point of the game is to reach level 20.
yeah.
Cool. I guess you're gonna be dissatisfied with the first 2 years of Thursday nights.
When they do 6th edition, they really just need 10 levels. And
Yeah.
like the players want to start at level 3 and the DMs want to stop at level 13. So just make it 10
Mm.
levels. Make the game 10 levels, make first level as powerful as level 3 and only go up to 10th level. Boom, you're done. You have a better designed, tighter framed game. Like that's what needs to happen. I'll die on that hill.
You know, I love level 1 and 2 because I like the more
Players hate it.
human skill. Yeah, I'll give that up, man. I will give you level 1 and 2 if we're just like this amp it goes to 11, right?
Yeah,
Spinal Tap rules.
I will
We go to 11. We could start at 3. We go to 11. End of campaign.
Yep.
And then someone else run the next one. I'll give you level 1 and 2 for that.
Yep, I will sacrifice level 1 and 2 on the altar of not having the top tier D&D. Like I don't need those like levels, 14 and up. Don't need it. But yeah, I have one more thing I was going to bring up, Ryan, since we've got a little bit of time. If you got time for one more topic.
Yeah, shoot.
Remember when Big Ben Riggs came out and said that the D&D was in its decline, that the golden age of D&D was over? You remember that hullabaloo? I guess it was almost 2 years ago now.
Yes.
So I'm curious, now that we have data from Bob's survey, and we just had a $16 million 5e Kickstarter that we talked about earlier in the show. I'm curious to kind of compare Ben Riggs, claims, on the future downfall of Dungeons and Dragons to what has actually happened since he wrote that article. And so I actually pulled up the article about his article just because it was easier to read because it was bullet pointed. So things that he predicted about 5th edition is that he said that he called it 6th edition, but he said 5.5 will not do as well as 5th edition. And so far, Bob's survey indicates that more people are still playing 5th edition than not 5.5. But we're only, what did we say, 18 months in? So I'm curious to see how that plays out. He also predicted that MCDM's RPG crowdfunding campaign will never do better than its initial launch. And so far, he's right about that. Their initial launch did 4.6 million, and their most recent one, the Sun something, what was it called? Crack the Sun. Crack the Sun did 2.6 million. But I mean, that's still millions of dollars being made on an expansion for a game that's not D&D.
And it's a little apples and oranges, right? The core rulebook's always going to perform better than a specific. That's a campaign, but that's an adventure. I mean, maybe there's like subclasses and spells in there, but it's not the core. The core game is always going to do the best.
Right. So I think that was kind of a safe prediction on his part. But his point was that he felt like, Draw Steel, as we now call it, was not going to be tremendously successful, feeling like the hobby was in a state of decline. And the fact that their first Draw Steel Kickstarter since the launch Kickstarter, well, backer kit because they don't use Kickstarter, that their second backer kit for Draw Steel still did 2.6 million, is a really good sign that that game is healthy, right?
Yeah.
And he said and then to that point, he also said the frequency of $1 million TTRPGs was going to decrease. And we just saw, and like, so he says frequency. So we don't know. You have to do some research to find out about that. But we just talked about the Age of Ventress Kickstarter doing 16 million, over 16 million, and setting a new record, beating out Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, right? And like Cosmere wasn't even on the radar when Ben Riggs wrote that, and that campaign did over right around 15 million, right? So I think it's pretty clear that Ben Riggs was wrong on a lot of this stuff. At least it's not trending the direction that he said it would, right? If you were to nitpick and you just picked a sample size right now, you might be able to squeeze in like, okay, he was kind of right about some of this stuff, but it doesn't seem to be trending the direction he said it was. It doesn't seem to be that our hobby's in a state of decline because WotC screwed up so bad with the OGL and so forth and so on, like he claimed. I just thought that was kind of interesting, since like pretty much every topic on our show today kind of lines up with his predictions, right? To, as far as, the trend in our hobby, we still are seeing $1 million Kickstarters, $1 million backer kits, multiple $1 million Kickstarters and multiple $1 million backer kits for this hobby. And we've been talking about that for our whole show, as well as, talking about WotC's improvements to D&D Beyond, WotC interacting more with the community and listening to community feedback. So, I think we're trending very much away from this doom and gloom prediction that Ben Riggs had about the end of the golden age of our hobby.
Agreed. I think all the prognostications that D&D was going to tank and WotC was going to go out of business or whatever, right, were a lot of sour grapes and wishful thinking. The idea that there would be another TTRPG that took their place. As much as I am sympathetic to that desire, was also a little bit of wishful thinking and sour grapes. They're still going to be the biggest in the room, but it's never been better. I've been saying that for years, and in the heart of the OGL nonsense, we are still in a golden age of TTRPGs. I think from like a narrative, the golden age of D&D, is over, because it's gold doesn't tarnish, right? At 5th, D&D is tarnished, and I don't know, the golden age was Gygaxian, and maybe we were in the silver age or the diamond age or whatever you want to, however you want to rank these. D&D lost a step. We're still in a rebuilding era. What I'm looking forward to, the next release, is the first adventure for this new edition of D&D. So we're not there yet. We're still seeing what the new people are actually bringing to the table. The jury's still out, and it's not that different, which is a missed opportunity. But in the meantime, when Ben Riggs is writing that, he's talking about MCDM, one of the, if not the clear front runner for the next Pathfinder. Whereas in Bob's poll there, and the MCDM to be titled Draw Steel is right there in the mix with Shadow Dark and Nimble and Daggerheart, and there's a whole pack of games underneath it. I mean, if you add in, you talk about the blend between 5.5 and 5e, if you start to combine some of those OSR, I'm running Knave, I'm running Old School Essentials, I'm running Shadow Dark, there is a lot of crossover behind the screen, even if the character sheet very clearly says it's one specific system. What the Dungeon Master is using and drawing from could be a veritable cornucopia of different systems from different products. So never better. This is the golden age of D&D. It's just that D&D has for a long time meant TTRPGs in general, and yeah, it's great, and it keeps getting better, and it's easier than ever to find people to play with. It's easier than ever to find good content. It's easier than ever to get started. It's easier than ever, yet still challenging, to get people to play a game that isn't D&D.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Overall, I still think our hobby is very healthy and very much headed in the right direction. And I think that it's the way we all reacted to WotC during the OGL and all of the products that have come out since then, giving us alternatives to D&D brand, has been better for the hobby. I think that, the phrase "we all won" is actually kind of true. As annoying as it was was it Chris Cox who used that phrase?
I forget, but yeah, it was.
It was as annoying as it was. Said it at the time, right? It's actually true because WotC is clearly making good money off of 5.5. Maybe not as much as they thought they would, but they deserve that. But they're still making WotC's still making good money off of Dungeons and Dragons, and as a side effect of that whole debacle, we now have some really great alternatives, like all the ones we just mentioned: Shadow Dark, Draw Steel, Daggerheart, Nimble, right? This new why do I keep trying to blank on this space opera?
Neon Odyssey, because you wanted to yeah. You want it to be David Bowie. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we're on the heels of Dungeon Crawler Carl closing out. I think that's going to be another force of nature beside, like, Cosmere. Yes, Nacho, I did finish listening to 8. It was incredible. Maybe it does a lot of work to set up 9 to 10. If you're not on the Dungeon Crawler Carl train, you're looking for some fiction. Nothing like it. Sorry for whistling into a microphone. But Dungeon Crawler Carl is amazing. I'm looking for. I did not back the game because I went back and forth. I was on a Kickstarter hiatus, but then I backed Kevin Crawford because I felt like I owed him one.
Yeah, I actually, because you guys know that I run the D&D groups at my wife's school. And those wrapped up for the year because the school year's like today is our last day. But this past week, I actually stopped by to observe our middle school, high school class, and and one of the kids, their final book report was on Dungeon Crawler Carl. So like it's out there and it's attracting a younger generation of players for sure. And yeah, so I think Dungeon Crawler Carl is another gateway, just like Delicious in Dungeon. And we just got the new season that just dropped for Vox Machina, right? And there's a whole lot of D&D adjacent content in the media that's still going to be driving people towards our hobby. And so I think our hobby is very healthy, contrary to Ben Riggs' predictions. And as much as we make fun of WotC for stepping on rakes, I think our hobby is still in a really great place.
Because it's bigger than them. Like a lot of us always knew, but we had to be reminded that, like, we don't need them. We don't need we need a piece of paper and a pen. Like, that's it.
Exactly.
That's it. They need us. We don't need them.
Yeah, we proved that with You Dare, right? Like we wrote like one of the most simple RPGs out there that, unlike a lot of the one-page rule sets that are out there that, that we've played and we loved, a lot of those one-page rule sets are very specific, where our one-page rule set, you can do just about anything with it. And so we've proven that really all you need is a pencil, some paper, and some dice, and you can have a ton of fun, and build your own system straightforward right out of the gate. That's another thing, just to illustrate that point. I get a random phone call in the middle of the day from our elementary school teacher who says, "Hey, I got a group of kids who are designing their own board game. Do you have any like dice and miniatures that you could just donate to the school real quick?"
Mm.
Right. And I live close enough to school, and I've got a ton of unpainted whiz kids pre-primed miniatures, in my pile of shame. So I just scooped up some of those guys, grabbed some extra D6s that I had, and dropped them off at the school. And these kids are building their own like board game version of D&D. And these are 4th and 5th graders.
Love it. Love it.
You can
You Dare is fun with my kids. That's like, there's something about getting down to basics, stripping away everything, getting that like childlike wonder back, that beginner's mindset, whether you're playing with children or grown adults, but especially if you're playing with children. It's great. And then it makes you much more mindful about what you add back. A lot of people are out there looking for the shiny new thing. A lot of the time, less is more in gaming and in elsewhere. Glad you're enjoying the game with the kids, man. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, that's exciting. I love that. But yeah, so
right. It is time. It is 4:21. I missed the cutoff. I'm so sorry to all of you out there who were waiting for that very specific time stamp. We don't need them, but we do need you guys. We appreciate you all in chat, listening to the podcast, listening to the replays. We appreciate all of you. We are small, but we are mighty. Landlocked Warlocks.
Yeah, thanks guys for everything. Enjoy your weekend. Keep gaming.
Bye. Game it up. Game it out.